Good morning. Welcome to Mission Control Houston and the International Space Station Flight Control Room. This is where a team of specialists is on duty around the clock to keep tabs of the operation of all of the station systems and to assist the station crew members as they press ahead with their agenda of scientific research on orbit. Today, they are also helping the Expedition 55 crew members after the completion of the first spacewalk of this mission, which came less than a week after the arrival of 3 new crew members and just days before the expected arrival of a new shipment of supplies in a Dragon spacecraft.
Houston Station on Space to Ground.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Catherine McLaurin. This week, our crew members wrapped up a spacewalk and are now getting ready for a new delivery of science and research. Expedition 55 flight engineers Drew Feustel and Ricky Arnold completed the 209th spacewalk in support of space station assembly, maintenance, and upgrades. This was the 7th spacewalk for Feustel and the 3rd for Arnold. During the spacewalk, they installed wireless communication equipment on the Tranquility module to enhance data processing for the eco-stress experiment that will be arriving on a future cargo ship. This experiment will measure the temperature of plants on Earth to better understand how much water plants need and how the plants respond to stress. The crew members also replaced the pan-tilt mechanism for a camera on the outside of the station and removed aging hoses from the cooling component on the station's truss. Now that the spacewalk is completed, station residents are getting ready for next week's special delivery from SpaceX. On Monday, April 2nd, SpaceX will launch its 14th cargo resupply mission to the ISS. The SpaceX Dragon is packed with almost 5,800 pounds of research, crew supplies, and hardware. Research highlights include a study on metabolic tracking that will evaluate the metabolic impacts of pharmaceutical drugs, the Atmosphere-Space Interactions Monitor that will study severe thunderstorms and their role in the Earth's atmosphere and the climate, and the Veggie Passive Orbital Nutrient Delivery System experiment that continues NASA's plant research by testing a new way to deliver nutrients to plants. The Dragon will spend almost a month attached to the space station before returning in May with results of completed experiments. Live coverage will begin at 4 p.m. Eastern on Monday, April 2nd on NASA TV and at nasa.gov/NASA Live. Manish on Twitter wants to know why it takes so long for the ISS to open the hatches once the Soyuz is docked to the station. After docking, the crew conducts a series of leak checks, checking in with flight controllers back on Earth and making sure that there is a perfect seal between the Soyuz and the hatch on the space station. The process takes about 2 hours to complete. During this time, the crew can get out of their launch and entry suits and get ready to move inside station. Keep sending us in questions using the hashtag #SpaceToGround, and we'll see you next week.
On the topic of the SpaceX cargo ship, NASA TV and NASA.gov begin live coverage this Sunday, April 1st at 1:30 p.m. Central Time with a briefing about the science, hardware, and supplies the Dragon will deliver. That'll be followed at 3 o'clock by a pre-launch news conference with representatives from the International Space Station program and from SpaceX. Launch coverage begins Monday afternoon, April 2nd at 3 p.m. Central. Launch of the 14th Dragon cargo ship to the station is expected at 3:30 p.m. Our coverage of Dragon's arrival starts on Wednesday, April 4th at 4:30 a.m. Houston time, with capture of the spacecraft by the station's Canadarm2 expected at 6 a.m. And coverage of installation onto the Harmony module will begin at 7:30 Houston time Wednesday morning. This Dragon cargo ship will deliver almost 3 tons of research and crew supplies, including the hardware to validate a newly developed plant growth system, the Passive Orbital Nutrient Delivery System. This experiment is a follow-up to the Veggie experiments, designed to learn more about how we can provide fresh food to the crews on future deep space missions.
Space gardening. Presented by Science at NASA. Roman statesman Marcus Tullius Cicero said, "If you have a garden and a library, you have everything you need." Humans attempting someday to make Mars their home may well share the sentiments expressed by the orator from ancient Rome. As for the library, books can now be stored digitally. But how does your garden grow in space? To find out, scientists have been studying plant growth on the International Space Station, or ISS. The results could help boost the productivity of both extraterrestrial and earthly gardens. Recently, the ISS has been home to some impressive harvests, yielding tasty snacks for crew members. However, scientists aren't through trying to unlock the secrets of how plants grow away from home. Future space outpost dwellers will need to grow plants for food and for recycling air and water, says Annalisa Paul of the University of Florida. So we're studying how plants adapt to the spaceflight environment. Our findings will also help us understand how plants might respond to new and challenging environments here on Earth. Paul and her colleague Robert Furl have been growing plants in space since 1999, when they launched their first experiment on Space Shuttle Columbia. Several space station experiments followed. One of their most compelling discoveries was that certain root growth strategies assumed to require gravity really don't. Plant roots seek water and nutrients by growing away from where they're planted. To determine which direction to grow, terrestrial plants use gravity as a cue, and they use touch to maneuver around obstacles. In the late 1800s, Charles Darwin demonstrated that plants growing along a tilted surface don't send their roots directly away from the seed, but instead send them to the right or left. He hypothesized that this growing pattern, called skewing, was caused by a combination of the roots touching their way across the slanted surface and gravity pulling straight down on them. In an experiment in 2010, Paul and Furl discovered, however, that roots of plants growing in microgravity on the station skewed like their earthly counterparts. The ISS showed us something we never would have known otherwise, notes Paul. Gravity isn't essential in root orientation. Good news. That's one less impediment to growing plants in space. Plants will efficiently seek the nutrients they need without gravity as a cue. The experiment also studied the patterns of genetic expression. Space plants changed the way they expressed their genes in order to produce specific proteins helpful in zero gravity. Paul explains, when living organisms are faced with environmental change, their response almost always involves a change in genetic expression. To cope, they switch on and off certain genes. Plants are pros at this. Paul says, plants' cell walls undergo a kind of remodeling in space. The genes associated with a cell wall are often in the opposite switch positions than they're in on Earth. The researchers aren't yet sure what purpose this serves, but they intend to find out with additional experiments. Paul and Furl aren't alone. Many other scientists have also been studying plant growth on the space station to unlock the secrets of successfully growing plants in this novel environment. At the heart of all the research is the quest to provide humans with everything they need, wherever they may be. For more about gardening in space, visit www.nasa.gov/station. For more on the growth of science both on and off our home planet, visit science.nasa.gov.
When this new Dragon ship returns to Earth after 4 weeks on orbit, it'll deliver science samples so that researchers can determine the results of their experiments. Some of the research being done inside the space station is helping improve the lives of us Earthlings who never get to leave the planet. Take a look at just a few examples.
The International Space Station is the most fantastic vehicle ever built.
It's a one-of-a-kind laboratory orbiting about 250 miles above the Earth.
And we perform experiments on the International Space Station.
We can do science, we can do experiments, we can learn how to do things out of this world. And the result will help benefit the people on the ground.
The space station really provides an opportunity to explore, for example, say medical applications.
The aging and the osteoporosis and muscle wasting conditions are greatly accelerated in microgravity.
The weightless environment will give us insights into things like diabetes and maybe even cancer.
Understanding those phenomena allow us to look at how we can improve treatment of disease here on Earth.
If we wouldn't have conducted experiments on the ISS, we wouldn't have known that you could use cold atmospheric plasma in such broad application areas we're now exploring.
One of the most promising results has been gained by studying a protein associated with Duchenne muscular dystrophy.
We may be able to slow the disease by half, potentially doubling the lifespan of many of these DMD patients.
We provided eyes-serve imagery for many natural disasters, including floods and fires, for deforestations, for volcanic eruptions, and for earthquakes. So it was really a fantastic example showing how imagery from the International Space Station could be used in these times of dire need.
This was when we realized we had a chance to make a difference in the world using the same technology that was used by NASA, but applied in a remote area of a developing country.
I think it's made people much more aware of the issues of water quality. That's a very powerful thing.
Having the HICO on the International Space Station has been the ideal test bed for our research.
We can monitor these water bodies from space, and if we can reduce exposures both to humans and even animals, then we've achieved our goal.
And now today, we're able to operate the largest fleet of Earth imaging satellites in human history.
And none of that would have been possible without the International Space Station.
The space station has done so many things for life on planet Earth. It shows us what human beings can do working together. It shows the science that we can discover.
Over 2,000 experiments have flown on board ISS. 170 countries around the world have participated in some fashion, either in the ISS itself or in one of the experiments. Our rate of research is actually increasing. We're doing more today on board the space station for research than we have ever done before, and that's only going to continue in the future.
And so what we're seeing today is a proliferation of new ideas and new concepts. It's almost like it's a renaissance of what's happening in space. Buckle up and strap down, because this is going to be a rocket for all of us in the global community to be part of.
Another aspect of the mission of the International Space Station is connecting students and teachers to the important research conducted on orbit. They do it through hands-on activities, videos, and up-to-the-minute education news. The Year of Education on Station is designed to help teachers enhance their K-12 curricula in the STEM fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And that includes the opportunities to talk to astronauts aboard the space station.
Everything we're doing is trying to inspire the next generation of spaceflight explorers. I think they're starting to realize that they're the generation that's going to make the next giant leap, that we're going to go to Mars and they're going to get to be a part of it. What we're looking to do is really bring subject matter experts into the classroom for the students and educators. So again, it's so important to hear from the experts firsthand and get almost like that mentorship from them. STEM on Station is kind of a collective of all the resources and opportunities available for students and educators related to the International Space Station. We do some things called in-flight education downlinks, where students on the ground get to talk to astronauts living and working on board the International Space Station. It's a 20-minute question and answer conversation, and so they're learning firsthand from the astronauts what it's like to live and work in space. We do some STEM-based design challenges, so we wrapped up something very recently called Mission Imagination. There it challenges students to take a look at how the International Space Station is helping us get to Mars. So looking at systems on the space station, how they currently work, and how we're going to have to change them just a little bit to help us get to Mars. And we have another program that's going to take a look at the expeditionary skills that the astronauts need, and these are skills like communication, teamwork, self-care, that really helps them be successful in their STEM careers. We're working off the Earth, for the Earth, and in the classroom.
For the last 15 years or so, NASA's hunch program, that's High Schools United with NASA to Create Hardware, it has challenged students to use their technical skills to build replicas of space station hardware. But now, hunch program organizers are challenging the students to build actual flight hardware for use on orbit.
When we first started with Hunch, we started with 3 schools, 2 in Alabama, 1 in Texas. Now we're up to 77 schools, 34 states, 7 NASA centers. Everything from CAD drafting, design and prototyping, welding, computer electronics, anything that you fly as a mock-up or emulate as a mock-up for space station, we do it on the ground.
First year we did 2 or 3 little projects for them, and the next year it got a little more advanced, and ever since then it's just gotten more and more technical and more challenging and more rewarding. I think it's important for students to be involved with Hunch because it gives them real-world applications that they can take into their occupations as adults.
When I talk to my friends about it, they don't really believe it very much. To say we have parts going to space as a senior in high school, going out on a spacewalk, it's pretty amazing.
I like seeing the light bulb go off. To me, it's making that connection. You know, it's stuff that I know how to do, want to do, but I let the kids do it, the students do it. It's just a heartfelt fulfillment to me because it's success, and that's what we need.
Teaching is one of the major goals of the International Space Station. But for NASA's Human Research Program, it's also an opportunity to study the human crew members on board in order to learn more about how to protect them from the negative effects of being in weightlessness, as well as to protect them from conditions that they'll encounter on future long missions out into deep space. And that includes galactic cosmic radiation that comes from supernovas.
One of our biggest challenges on a mission to Mars is protecting the crew from radiation. You can't see it, you can't feel it, you don't know that you're getting bombarded by radiation, but we do have operational dosimetry and crew personal dosimeters that we can measure it.
Space radiation comes from 3 major sources. One is there are radiation particles trapped around the Earth, and they're called the Van Allen radiation belts. The second source of radiation is from the sun. During times of intense solar activity, there can be solar storms and high fluxes of radiation. Protons in particular can reach Earth. The third source of radiation in space is called galactic cosmic radiation, and that's the one that's of most concern for a mission to Mars. The galactic cosmic rays come from exploding stars that we call supernovas.
So I think one of the common misconceptions about space radiation is just how different it is from the type of radiation we have here on Earth. So here on Earth, when you think about sitting down in a dentist chair, they put some kind of lead blanket on your chest to protect you against X-rays. In space, it actually is very different. We don't want heavy materials because it makes the exposure worse. We want things like hydrogen, things like water and polyethylene. The primary reason for that is in space we have particle radiation instead of electromagnetic radiation. Particle irradiation is basically everything on the periodic table, hydrogen all the way up through nickel and uranium, but moving at speeds that are close to the speed of light. So thinking about the differences between Earth-based radiation and space radiation, we have a long history and a decent amount of data about the biological consequences of exposure to terrestrial radiation. Where we lack data and we have a large amount of uncertainty is the biological consequences of space radiation. And so really the next steps are, and the ongoing steps are to try to understand those exposures better and the biological consequences that follow them.
The International Space Station encourages cooperation among the nations of the world, both in the exploration of space and in scientific research. Recently, NASA announced the continuation of its successful collaboration with the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. They signed an agreement to encourage scientists from both countries to use International Space Station hardware located in both countries' laboratories.
Booster ignition and liftoff of Shuttle Discovery. Gambate kudasai. Best of luck to the International Space Station's newest laboratory.
Since Kibo is in operation in 2008,
we conducted about 100 of experiments was conducted. Through this partnership program with the US, we are trying to invite ASEAN Pacific area countries to ISS program. And also we are open for any collaboration framework with the other countries. That's the way we will maximize the outcome and give back the benefit for the humankind.
Station flight engineers Drew Feustel and Ricky Arnold barely had time to get settled into their new home on orbit last week before preparing for yesterday's spacewalk. They may get some time this weekend for a more leisurely look around. The International Space Station has more internal space than a 6-bedroom house, contained within a vehicle that's large enough that it would cover an American football field. How long does it take to get a tour? Not as long as you might think. In this Speedy Time feature, astronaut Jack Fisher flies us through the station from bow to stern in just 3 minutes, 18 seconds.
Today we're going to take a tour of the incredible place we get to call home, the International Space Station. We're starting in the JLP, which is one of our mini closets for stowage. Then we're coming in to the Japanese segment. We have lots of experiments. We have huge freezers that you've seen. Then we have a node where we can dock modules in 3 different directions. We have the European module called the Columbus. It has tons of scientific equipment as well. This thing is called Mares. It's one of the biggest things on the station. All right, let's check out the United States Laboratory. But first, we'll see where we sleep. This is Node 2. We watch our movies here, and we sleep here. This is where I sleep. It's pretty messy, but at least there's a flag. That's cool. In here is the United States Laboratory, the Destiny. We have tons of equipment in here, not only scientific equipment to look at different experiments, but also some of the systems that really keep the space station going. So that's pretty cool. We also, in here, have Node 1. We can dock more vehicles here at the docking port. On the bottom, it gets kind of confusing what's up and down. In here, we have the airlock. This is where we get into our spacesuits in this room, and then we go into this little room, and we close the door, we take all the air out, and we go outside and do spacewalks. Very cool. Over here, we have our treadmill, which you have seen before. Right here, we have our toilet, the super space toilet, or outhouse, as we lovingly call it. We have the ARED, which you've seen before from Peggy's video. This is the PMM, where we store a ton of stuff. And then, of course, everyone's favorite, the cupola. If we come down here, you can see outside, and it's gorgeous. It's just so pretty. It never gets old. Okay, let's check out the Russian segment. Come on, here we go. We're going through the little hatchway that takes you into the Russian segment. Inside the Russian segment, there's lots of modules as well. Down here is Mimadin. This is one of the many places where we dock vehicles. This is where Peggy actually docked. This is the FKB. This is another place where we keep a lot of our storage. It also has some of the critical systems for the Russian segment. Over here, we can go one of 2 directions, and it sometimes gets confusing. Let's see where we're going home. This is Mim Deba. We have an extra spacesuit, and we have our spaceship, the beloved Argo. So you can see we have 3 little pigs in a blanket with our spacesuits, and then this is our actual Spuskaymy apparat. That's what we sit in, and that's the part that we actually land in. This part actually burns up in the atmosphere. Okay, let's check out the heart and soul of the Russian segment, the service module. Obviously, the service module holds lots of critical systems for the Russian segment, but also for the space station, like our engines, to reboost and get to a higher orbit if something's about to hit us. One of the cool things that's in the Russian segment is the Russian cosmonauts, like Fyodor, our commander. In the Russian segment, we have tons of great windows. These are really high-quality windows, so we can take pictures. We also have a lot of systems that keep the station going, and we have another cargo vehicle at the very end of the station. And the last thing I'm going to show you is my favorite space picture because of what it represents. This is Yuri Gagarin with a dove, because space is a peaceful exploration where we work together. If you notice, I got a Russian shirt, I got American socks. It's international. That's what this place is about, working together as one team. Woo! That's Speedy Time this week. Have a good day.
This is just the first week in space on this flight for Oleg Artemyev, Drew Feustel, and Ricky Arnold. But flight engineer Scott Tingle is about halfway through his first space flight. He and his Soyuz crewmates, Anton Shkaplerov and Norishige Kanai, are due back on Earth in early June. Before he left Houston, we had a chance to talk to Tingle about the career that has led him to this point and the inspiration he's gained at each step in that journey.
I've had the opportunity to do a lot of great things in a 30-year career, engineering, flying airplanes, and now here with NASA. And the groups of people that I've worked with have been absolutely incredible. Well, the one consistency across the board is that they have provided me with a lifetime of inspiration. So I grew up in the town of Randolph, Massachusetts, kind of a small town, and the folks at home knew how driven I was. They knew how interested in science, engineering, and space flight I was, and they were nothing but supportive the whole way. There's literally thousands of people that I've worked with in my military career. Absolutely unbelievable. Some of the most inspirational young Americans you'd ever meet in your life. You'll walk down in the bowels of the ship and you'll see these 18, 19, 20-year-olds covered head to toe in grease, just coming off a 24-hour shift so that we could fly our airplanes safely and efficiently. Absolutely inspirational. When things get hard for me or challenging, I think of those folks, and it makes me want to do better. And that's one of the things that I'm finding is very consistent throughout my career. When I came here, we've got civil servants, we've got contractors, we've got military, you name it. And we all have one goal, one mission, and watching the team work together is just inspiring. My ultimate inspiration is the love and support I get from my family. They've been so solid over the years that there's absolutely no way I could be doing all this without their support. I'm Scott Tingle, and I'm a NASA astronaut.
If you'd like to get another look at any of the stories we feature today, check us out on YouTube and on Facebook. There are the addresses right in the handy blue box. While you're there, take a look at all the other great stuff you'll also find about NASA and America's human spaceflight program. And if you're interested in good conversation about space exploration, check out Houston, We Have a Podcast. That features folks here at NASA talking about their work, their personal experiences on the job. We post new episodes every Friday. Today, March 30th, in recognition of Women's History Month, my colleague Gary Jordan talks with 5 women colleagues here at the Johnson Space Center about their career paths at NASA, dating all the way back into the 1980s. Go to www.nasa.gov/Johnson/HWHAP, as in, altogether, Houston, We Have a Podcast. You'll find all the episodes there. You could also listen on SoundCloud and on iTunes. This is Mission Control, Houston.